When my daughter told her friends, "Ignore her, she's old and tired," I laughed along, pretending it didn't hurt. But that night, the candles on my birthday cake felt like little funerals for every unspoken word. The smell of vanilla and candle wax drifted through the small kitchen as Evelyn Hart arranged the final plate of cupcakes. Each swirl of frosting carried the kind of precision she used to demand from her students when she taught handwriting. Gentle, deliberate, full of care. 60 today. The number felt foreign, like it belonged to someone older. Someone who didn't still hum along to 80s songs while polishing the silverware. The clock above the stove ticked steadily, each second tapping at the quietness of the house. She adjusted the banner that said "Happy Birthday, Mom," and smiled faintly at the uneven letters. Her neighbor's son, a boy from across the street, had helped her hang it. Lena was supposed to have done it last night but had called instead. Her voice quick and distracted. "Mom, can we just do it tomorrow? I have a work dinner thing. I promise I'll make it special, okay? Hey there, my dear family and friends. If you're already tuned in and ready to enjoy this story, hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because tomorrow I'll be bringing you another story just as captivating, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Now back to the story. Evelyn had said yes like she always did. It was easier that way. She looked around her small living room, now glowing under the soft amber light. The table was set, her favorite floral tablecloth smoothed and ironed, the teapot polished. She even wore the necklace Lena had given her 5 years ago on Mother's Day, the one that said "Forever Us." It felt ironic now, but she still wore it. Outside, laughter drifted from a group of early guests, old friends from church and 2 former colleagues. She welcomed them with warm hugs, her voice light, her eyes occasionally flicking toward the door. Every sound of a car made her heart rise a little. "She's just late," she told herself, smiling as if to convince her reflection in the hallway mirror. "She always runs a little late." Meanwhile, across the city, Lena Hart was in her apartment, half-dressed, hair pinned, phone wedged between shoulder and ear. "Yes, I'll email the pitch deck before Monday," she said into her headset while slipping into heels. Yes, I know it's Saturday, but deadlines don't care about birthdays." Her reflection in the mirror was sharp. Perfect eyeliner, tailored blouse, lips painted a neutral rose. She looked like success, like control. But inside, a quiet unease twisted in her stomach. Birthdays with her mother always meant guilt. The decorations, the sentimental music, the constant questions. Are you eating enough? Sleeping enough? Seeing anyone nice? She loved her mother, of course she did. But sometimes that love felt like wearing a sweater 2 sizes too small. Warm but suffocating. When her fiancé, Ethan, stepped out from the bedroom adjusting his tie, he gave her a look. "You're not seriously thinking of being late to your mom's party again, are you?" "It's fine," she replied, waving it off. "She'll be surrounded by her friends. She'll love that." "Lena," he said softly, "you should go." "I am going," she said quickly. "Just after this email." And she did go. Eventually. Back at the house, Evelyn poured herself a small glass of white wine and pretended not to notice the time. Her friends chatted, the room filled with laughter. But as the minutes turned into hours, that laughter became background noise to the quiet thrum of disappointment. When Lena finally walked through the door, 3 hours late, Evelyn's smile came instantly, instinctively, like muscle memory. "There she is," she said, voice trembling slightly. "My beautiful girl." Lena smiled politely, carrying a bouquet of roses and a gift bag. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said, kissing her cheek. "Sorry, traffic was insane." "Oh, that's all right. You made it. That's what matters." The words were true. Or at least, Evelyn wanted them to be. As Lena mingled, Evelyn watched her from across the room. Her daughter looked so much like the woman she used to dream of becoming. Confident, self-assured, untouchable. Evelyn admired her and felt invisible at the same time. When she tried to join Lena's group, a circle of sleek young professionals, the conversation quieted politely. Evelyn made a joke about her old students mispronouncing photosynthesis, but no one laughed quite enough. Lena's eyes darted, a flicker of embarrassment. "Mom, why don't you sit down for a bit?" she said gently. "You must be tired." "I'm fine, sweetheart," Evelyn replied, still smiling. That word, fine, was her armor. As the evening stretched on, Lena's voice grew louder with her friends, her laughter sharper. Evelyn drifted between small talk and small silences. The cake waited in the kitchen, candles ready to burn down. Outside, the night sky deepened to navy. Inside, Evelyn stood near the window, holding a small plate of uneaten cake, watching her guests take selfies with her daughter in the background. She smiled at them unseen. "Mom," Lena called across the room, "can you grab me another drink?" "Of course," Evelyn said softly, setting down her plate. She moved slowly toward the kitchen, each step echoing on the tiled floor. There, for a brief moment, she leaned on the counter and let her eyes close. She whispered to herself, almost as a prayer, "Don't cry. Not today. It's your birthday." The cake waited under its soft blanket of frosting. Tiny pastel roses piped with trembling care. Evelyn carried it out carefully, humming the old birthday song to herself until her guests joined in. The room dimmed, the candles flickered, and for a fleeting second, the air felt warm again. Lena stood beside her mother, smiling for the camera, her arm loosely draped around Evelyn's shoulder. "Make a wish, Mom," Lena said. Evelyn closed her eyes. Her wish was simple. Let tonight feel like love again. When she blew out the candles, the room cheered. Cameras flashed. Laughter rippled. And yet, somewhere deep inside, the silence was deafening. After the song, conversations bloomed again, lively and loud. Lena's friends clustered in one corner, wine glasses clinking, voices bright with youth and confidence. Evelyn hovered near them, plate in hand, smiling, waiting for an opening. She wanted to belong for a moment, to her daughter's world. "Oh, I used to teach at Glenford High," she said, laughing lightly. "Some of my students work in marketing now. Maybe you know them?" Polite silence followed. One of Lena's colleagues nodded vaguely. Evelyn chuckled nervously, adjusting her sweater. "Funny how they all grow up before you realize it. I still expect them to call me Mrs. Hart when I see them in the grocery store." Before anyone could reply, Lena laughed, a little too loudly. "Ignore her," she said with a grin, waving her hand. "She's old and tired." It was meant as a joke. At least, that's what Lena told herself the moment the words slipped out. But in the instant they landed, time fractured. Evelyn froze, her face still carrying the polite smile she had worn all evening. A soft chuckle escaped her lips. Instinct, survival. But her eyes betrayed her. The laughter around her dulled, like someone had turned down the volume of the world. The candles flickered again, smoke curling up like ghosts. "Old and tired," one guest murmured, uncertainly laughing to ease the tension. Lena, realizing the discomfort, tried to cover it up. "You know how she is," she said quickly. "Always doing too much for everyone. She's a machine." She meant it kindly. She really did. But the damage was already done. Evelyn set down her plate quietly and nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "Old and tired. That's me." The rest of the evening unfolded in fragments. Lena didn't notice how her mother's shoulders had sagged slightly or how she stopped sitting near her guests. Evelyn busied herself clearing empty glasses, adjusting decorations that didn't need adjusting, retreating into the rhythm of service. Her friends offered polite goodbyes one by one. "Lovely party, Evelyn," someone said. "Yes," she replied. "Lovely." When the last car's headlights faded down the street, the house exhaled into stillness. Evelyn sat at the dining table surrounded by deflated balloons and half-melted wax. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. She stared at the empty chair across from her, the one she'd saved for Lena, and let the ache spread. The words echoed again, over and over, like a cruel melody. "Ignore her. She's old and tired." She pressed her palms against her chest as if trying to hold her heart still. Tears came quietly, sliding down her cheeks. "Maybe I am," she whispered into the dim light. Maybe I am. Meanwhile, Lena drove home with Ethan beside her. The car was silent, save for the soft hum of the tires on asphalt. Ethan finally spoke. That comment about your mom. What about it? She asked, keeping her eyes on the road. It was harsh, Lena. Oh, come on, she snapped. It was a joke. She knows I didn't mean it. You saw her face. She's always too sensitive. I can't walk on eggshells around her forever. But even as she said it, guilt twisted in her gut. She saw her mother's eyes in her mind, soft, watery, wounded. The image followed her home, lingered in the bathroom mirror as she washed her makeup off, haunted her as she slipped into bed. Ignore her. She's old and tired. It didn't sound funny anymore. It sounded cruel. And for the first time in years, Lena couldn't sleep. Back in the quiet house, Evelyn rose from the table. She walked to the small hallway where a framed photo hung. Lena at age 6, gap-toothed, beaming, frosting on her nose. Evelyn touched the glass with trembling fingers. You used to say I was your favorite person, she whispered. Her voice cracked. When did that stop? Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you can't take back? What do you wish you'd said instead? Share your truth in the comments. The next morning, sunlight crept across the kitchen tiles, catching the crumbs from last night's celebration. The banner still hung loosely on the wall. Happy birthday, Mom. Its cheerful letters now drooping, as if the words themselves were exhausted. Evelyn stood at the sink, rinsing the wine glasses she hadn't touched. The water was warm, almost comforting, until it blurred her vision and she realized she was crying again. She wiped her cheeks quickly, scolding herself. Stop it, Evelyn. You're being silly. She stacked the plates carefully, pretending that methodical movements could erase the ache. The silence of the house was unbearable, so she turned on the radio. Soft old tunes about love and memory, but they only made it worse. On the counter sat her phone. No message. No call. She picked it up, hesitated, then typed. Evelyn. Thank you again for coming, sweetheart. I'm glad you made it. She read it 3 times before hitting send. A few minutes later, the screen lit up. Lena. Of course, Mom. Everyone had fun. Rest today, okay? You must be tired. That word again. Tired. It settled in her stomach like a stone. Evelyn typed a reply. I'm not tired, just thinking, but deleted it. What was the point? Across the city, Lena sat at her desk Monday morning, her laptop open, coffee steaming beside her. But the presentation she was supposed to be reviewing blurred before her eyes. Every few minutes, her mind flashed back to her mother's face. The forced smile, the way her shoulders had wilted. She told herself she was overthinking. Her mother always took things too seriously. Evelyn was strong, resilient. She'd bounce back. Still, something gnawed at her. At lunch, she scrolled through her phone and saw the photos from the party. In every shot, Evelyn was slightly out of focus, half smiling, half forgotten in the background. Lena's throat tightened. She looks smaller, she murmured. What? Her coworker asked, glancing over. Nothing, Lena said quickly, flipping her phone face down. She threw herself into work, meetings, noise. Anything that could drown out the memory. But silence always followed her home. That night, Ethan noticed her restlessness. You've been quiet lately, he said gently. Still thinking about your mom. I said something stupid, that's all. Did you apologize? It's not that big a deal, she said, her tone sharper than intended. She's fine, he sighed. Sometimes fine means broken. Lena turned away, pretending to scroll her phone. She didn't want to admit he was right. Days passed. Evelyn spent her mornings gardening, hands deep in soil, trying to keep her mind busy. The flowers were the only things that needed her anymore. Her neighbor, Mrs. Patel, stopped by one afternoon. How was your birthday, dear? Lovely, Evelyn said, forcing a smile. Did your daughter come? Of course. She was wonderful. The lie felt like a bandage that wouldn't stick. That evening, she sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the streetlights blink on. The house was too quiet. Even the refrigerator seemed hesitant to hum. She thought about calling Lena, maybe just to chat, to pretend nothing had happened, but pride held her back. She didn't want to sound needy. She'd spent her whole life being the strong one. Instead, she opened a notebook and began to write. Dear Lena, you've always been my light. I know you didn't mean what you said, but it hurt more than I can admit out loud. Maybe I am old. Maybe I am tired. But I still remember the little girl who used to climb into my bed and whisper that she'd never stop loving me. I hope she's still in there somewhere. She closed the notebook before finishing the letter, folded it, and tucked it inside her nightstand drawer. Lena's guilt grew heavier as the days went by. She thought about sending flowers, but that felt performative. She typed a message once. Hey Mom, sorry if I was weird at the party, then deleted it immediately. It sounded insincere. Instead, she posted a photo from the birthday dinner with the caption, Happy birthday to the strongest woman I know. Comments flooded in. So sweet. You two look amazing. And for a fleeting moment she felt relieved, like she'd done enough. But that night, scrolling through her feed, she stumbled upon an old photo. Her mother carrying her on her shoulders at the park, both of them laughing under a summer sky. The guilt came rushing back. Back in her quiet home, Evelyn looked out at the moon and whispered, She doesn't mean to hurt me. She just forgets I can still feel. Her words floated into the dark, unheard but honest. Started with a phone call. Evelyn was reaching for a jar of flour in the kitchen when her wrist twisted awkwardly. The pain shot up her arm so sharply she gasped, dropping the jar. Glass shattered, white powder clouding the floor like snow. By the time she managed to call her neighbor, her voice was trembling. I'm fine, she said, clutching her wrist. Just a little spill. But Mrs. Patel insisted on driving her to the urgent care clinic. The doctor confirmed a mild fracture. Nothing serious, but she'd need to rest the arm for several weeks. When Lena got the call that evening, she was in a meeting. Her phone buzzed repeatedly until she finally glanced down and saw missed call. Mom. Then another from Mrs. Patel. Something inside her sank. She called back immediately. She fell. Lena asked, standing up from her chair. Just a wrist injury, Mrs. Patel assured her. But she shouldn't be alone. By that night, Lena was already on the road, guilt and adrenaline tangling in her chest. The windshield wipers brushed against the drizzle as she drove down the familiar highway to her hometown. When she arrived, Evelyn was sitting on the couch, her arm in a neat beige sling, her face pale but smiling. Oh, sweetheart, you didn't have to come, she said softly. Of course I did, Lena replied, setting her purse down. You shouldn't be alone. Mrs. Patel's been checking in on me. I'm fine. Mom, Lena said gently. Let me help. Evelyn hesitated. Something inside her wanted to say I've been waiting for you. But instead she simply nodded. The house smelled faintly of lavender and tea. The same ticking clock filled the silence between them. Lena offered to make dinner, but Evelyn insisted on supervising from the table. Her good hand wrapped around a cup of tea. You don't have to cook for me, Evelyn said. I want to, Lena answered, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. They spoke in small phrases, safe, practical, polite. How's work? Busy. You still with that nice man, Ethan? Yes. We're fine. Each word hovered between them like a glass wall, clear yet unbreakable. At dinner, Evelyn tried to lighten the air. You used to love helping me cook, she said. You'd stand on that little stool and insist the mashed potatoes needed more magic. Remember? Lena smiled faintly. I remember spilling milk everywhere. You were 5. You said milk makes food happy. A tiny laugh escaped both of them, soft but real. The air shifted just a little. That night, Lena offered to sleep on the couch. Evelyn protested, but she was secretly relieved not to be alone. As Lena spread out a blanket, she looked around the small living room. It was cluttered but cozy. Books stacked neatly, photo frames lining the mantel, a faint smell of her mother's perfume in the air. She noticed a small detail she hadn't before: a notebook on the side table with a pressed flower sticking out from between the pages. The edges of the paper looked worn, as if it had been opened many times. She didn't dare look inside. When Evelyn shuffled into the room, she caught Lena's glance. "That's just my silly journaling," she said quickly. "Helps me remember things." "You always loved writing," Lena said. "You used to leave me notes in my lunchbox." "You used to write back," Evelyn replied, smiling softly. "Little hearts on the napkins." For a second their eyes met, and then both looked away. The silence between them felt fragile, like a thread stretched too thin. The next morning, Lena woke to the sound of the kettle whistling. Her mother, one-armed, was somehow managing to make tea. "You should have waited for me," Lena said, rushing over. "I'm not helpless," Evelyn replied lightly. But her voice trembled with both pride and pain. Lena reached for the kettle anyway. Their hands brushed briefly, and both froze. It was such a small contact, skin against skin, but it carried a weight neither of them wanted to name. "Mom," Lena whispered. "I didn't mean." "It's fine," Evelyn interrupted quickly, pulling her hand back. "Tea's ready." The conversation ended before it began. But for the rest of the morning, Lena couldn't shake the thought: she's still hurt. Not just her wrist. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the curtains, Evelyn sat quietly on the couch, her arm propped on a pillow. Lena handed her tea and sat beside her. The clock ticked. The air smelled of chamomile and something bittersweet, like peace just out of reach. "Thank you for coming," Evelyn said after a long pause. "You don't have to thank me," Lena replied softly. "You're my mom." Evelyn turned to her, her eyes shining with something that looked almost like forgiveness. But before she could speak, the phone rang, Ethan calling to check in. Lena answered quickly, breaking the moment. When she hung up, Evelyn smiled faintly and said, "You're busy. You should go back soon." "I'm not leaving yet," Lena said firmly. And for the first time in a long while, Evelyn let her heart believe it. Have you ever been forced to face someone you were avoiding, maybe after an argument or mistake? What was the hardest part of being in the same room again? Share your story below. Morning sunlight poured through the curtains, washing the small living room in gold. Evelyn sat at the table with her sling resting gently in her lap, flipping through an old photo album. The pages smelled faintly of dust and time. Lena came in, hair messy from sleep, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I found your photo albums," she said. "Ah," Evelyn replied with a small smile. "You remember these old things." Lena placed the mugs down and sat beside her. She flipped a page. There she was, age 6, missing a front tooth, frosting smeared across her cheek. "That was my 7th birthday," she said softly. "Yes," Evelyn said. "You made that cake yourself. You insisted the icing should be pink because pink tastes happier." They both chuckled, and the sound felt like sunlight cracking open a long winter. As the morning stretched, Lena noticed her mother's handwriting beneath each photo, tiny notes in blue pen. "First day of kindergarten." She didn't cry, just waved. "Broke her wrist roller skating, refused to stop smiling. Said she wants to make me proud." Lena blinked, her chest tightening. "You wrote all these." "Just little memories," Evelyn said. "So I wouldn't forget." "You kept everything," Lena murmured. "You're everything," Evelyn whispered back. The silence that followed was heavy and tender at once. Later that afternoon, Lena offered to help with laundry. While searching for the basket in Evelyn's bedroom, she noticed something tucked beneath the lamp, a folded piece of paper, edges slightly worn. Her mother's handwriting on the front. "For Lena." She froze, her fingers brushing the paper. She hesitated. She shouldn't invade her mother's privacy, but curiosity tugged harder than conscience. Slowly she opened it. "Dear Lena, I don't know how to tell you how much last night hurt. Maybe you didn't mean it, but I felt invisible in a room full of people who used to look at me through your eyes. I've spent years trying to be small so you could feel big. Maybe that was my mistake. Love isn't supposed to make you disappear. But I'd do it all again if it meant you'd shine. Lena's throat tightened. She read the words twice, her vision blurring. She folded the letter quickly, guilt burning in her chest. Find everything okay? Lena jumped. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her expression soft but knowing. I was just. You found the letter. Evelyn's voice wasn't angry. It was weary, resigned. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her eyes focused on the floor. I wasn't going to give it to you, she said quietly. It was just something I needed to write. Mom, you were right, you know. I'm tired. But not from age. From holding everything together while pretending it doesn't hurt. The words sliced through Lena's chest. She sat beside her mother, unable to speak. I was so proud of you, Evelyn continued. Still am. I just wish you'd look at me sometimes. Not past me. Tears welled in Lena's eyes. I didn't mean it, Mom. I swear I didn't. It just came out stupid and thoughtless. I know, Evelyn whispered. But words don't vanish, sweetheart. They live inside us until we forgive them. A moment of quiet hung between them. Lena reached for her mother's hand, this time not hesitating. How did you do it? She asked softly. Raise me alone, work full-time, still show up for everything. Evelyn smiled faintly. You just keep going. One bill, one dinner, one smile at a time. Did you ever regret it? Never, Evelyn said. But I did wish sometimes that someone would see me the way I saw you. That line shattered Lena. It echoed through her chest like a prayer she'd forgotten to say. She leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. The gesture was small, almost childlike. Evelyn's good hand rose slowly, hesitantly, before resting against her daughter's hair. For the first time in years they simply stayed there. No need for perfect words. Later, as rain began to tap gently on the window, Lena stood by the photo album again. She turned to a page showing Evelyn in her 20s, standing proudly in front of her classroom. The caption read, "My first year teaching. The start of everything." Lena traced the photo's edge with her fingertip. You had dreams too, didn't you? Once upon a time, Evelyn said softly. But life chooses differently for some of us. I never asked what you wanted. You asked once, Evelyn said with a small smile. You were 7. You said, when I grow up, I'll buy you a big house so you can rest. I guess I thought that was enough. Lena laughed through tears. I was a dramatic kid. You were my reason to wake up, Evelyn said simply. That night, as they sat quietly eating soup, Lena's guilt softened into something else. Understanding. For the first time, she saw her mother not as the unshakable figure of her childhood, but as a woman with her own wounds and longings. The rain outside thickened, the kind that made the world hush. Inside, Evelyn's smile looked different. Tired, yes, but peaceful. And Lena knew. Something had shifted. The storm had passed overnight, leaving the world washed and glistening. Morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, catching droplets still clinging to the windowpane. The smell of rain mixed with the comforting aroma of coffee. Evelyn was already awake, her sling propped neatly against a pillow as she stirred oatmeal with her good hand. She hummed under her breath, an old lullaby that used to fill the house when Lena was little. Lena leaned against the doorway, watching. You're up early, she said softly. Couldn't sleep, Evelyn replied. Rain kept whispering at the windows. You shouldn't be cooking with that arm. I'm not helpless, darling. Evelyn smiled. Besides, the oatmeal won't stir itself. Lena grinned and stepped forward, gently taking the spoon from her. Then let me be your second arm today. Evelyn chuckled. That's a dangerous offer. You might end up doing laundry too. They shared a laugh that felt easy, almost like the laughter they used to have. As they ate breakfast, silence wrapped around them, but it wasn't the cold, heavy kind from before. It was soft, peaceful. Mom, Lena said suddenly, I read that letter again last night. Oh, Evelyn's spoon paused midair. You said love shouldn't make you disappear. Yes, I think. I made you disappear without realizing it. Evelyn set her spoon down, her eyes glistening. We all vanish a little in the people we love, she said. It's part of the job. But sometimes it's nice to be remembered. Lena reached across the table and took her mother's hand gently. Then let me remember you now. The words hung there, trembling but true. Evelyn smiled, her thumb brushing the back of Lena's hand. The afternoon passed with quiet companionship. Lena helped tidy up the living room, pausing every so often to listen to her mother's stories. About students she'd taught, neighbors she'd helped, the time she accidentally set the oven mitt on fire and blamed the cat. You did not. Lena laughed, covering her mouth. Oh, I did. Mr. Whiskers got the blame for years. For the first time in a long while, their laughter didn't feel forced. It rolled through the house like sunlight spilling across old floorboards. Later they decided to bake cookies together, something simple like they used to on Sunday afternoons. Evelyn sat at the table, reading the recipe, while Lena handled the mixing. You always made them better than I could, Evelyn said. That's because you always ate half the dough before it hit the oven. Quality control, Evelyn replied with mock seriousness. They laughed again and it sounded like forgiveness. As the cookies baked, the smell filled the kitchen. Sugar, butter, warmth. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her eyes soft with nostalgia. You know, she said quietly, I used to pray you'd come back home one day. Not because I needed help, but because I missed hearing you breathe in this house. Lena's chest tightened. I didn't realize I left such a quiet behind. You did, Evelyn said. But you're here now. That's enough. When the timer dinged, they both jumped and burst out laughing again. The cookies were slightly burnt around the edges, but Evelyn bit into one anyway. Still perfect, she said with a crumb-filled smile. You'd say that if it were made of cardboard. Maybe, Evelyn replied. If you baked it. Lena looked at her mother then. Not as a duty, not as an obligation, but as a person. Woman. The kind of woman she secretly hoped to become someday. Graceful, kind, unbreakable even when broken. That evening, they sat on the porch watching the sky turn shades of rose and violet. A breeze drifted through the trees, carrying the smell of damp earth. Remember when we used to watch sunsets like this every summer? Evelyn asked. Yeah. You always said the sky looked tired after a long day. Still does, Evelyn murmured. But tired isn't always bad. Sometimes it just means you gave the day your all. Lena leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. You've been giving your all for a long time, haven't you? I have, Evelyn said softly. But tonight I think I got a little of it back. Inside, the cookies cooled, the tea grew cold, and the evening deepened into a quiet that didn't hurt anymore. It was the kind of silence that comes only when two hearts finally start speaking again, without words. And somewhere deep inside her, Lena made a quiet promise. I won't let her feel invisible again. Have you ever had a moment of peace after years of distance with someone you love? What finally helped you reconnect? Let me know in the comments below. 2 days later, the peace they'd found began to tremble. The morning started quietly enough. The sky was pale, the air heavy with the kind of humidity that promised rain. Evelyn was at the table with her tea, humming softly as Lena sorted through a small stack of mail. Bills, advertisements, a magazine. And then one envelope caught her attention. Thick, official-looking, with a university logo in the corner. Mom, Lena asked, frowning. What's this? Evelyn's hum stopped. Oh, that. It's addressed to you. Yes. From Temple University. Evelyn's smile faltered. It's nothing important, she said, reaching for the letter. But her injured wrist made her wince. Lena hesitated, then gently opened it. Inside was a formal notice of acceptance. Evelyn had been invited to audit a creative writing course for seniors, starting in the fall. Lena looked up, startled. You applied for this? I thought about it for years, Evelyn said softly. They finally approved me. Why didn't you tell me? Evelyn's eyes flickered. Guilt, pride, maybe both. Because I knew what you'd say. And what's that supposed to mean? Evelyn's voice was calm, too calm. You'd say it's silly. That I should rest. That I'm too old for dreams. Lena felt her chest tighten. Mom, I wouldn't. You already have, Evelyn interrupted gently. Maybe not in words, but in how you look at me sometimes, like I'm something to protect, not someone who still is. The air thickened. Rain began to spatter softly against the window. That's not fair, Lena said. No, Evelyn replied. It's honest. The tension that had been buried beneath their laughter cracked open. Lena stood, her hands shaking slightly. I've been trying so hard to fix things to make up for what I said. I know, Evelyn said. And I'm grateful. But love isn't about fixing. It's about seeing. You think I don't see you. I think you see the mother, not the woman. Not the person who used to dream about writing books and traveling and maybe falling in love again someday. The words hit like a slap. Lena's throat tightened, anger mixing with shame. You can't blame me for your choices, she burst out. I'm not blaming you, Evelyn said quietly. I'm blaming myself for forgetting who I was when all I wanted was to be enough for you. Lightning flashed outside, briefly lighting the room in cold white light. Lena turned away, blinking hard. Why didn't you tell me about any of this before? You were busy, Evelyn said softly. I didn't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. Then why did it take you 10 years to visit me properly? The question sliced through Lena's defenses. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The truth sat between them, raw and unbearable. Evelyn's eyes glistened, not with anger but exhaustion. I used to sit by the window every Sunday, waiting for your car. Tell myself maybe next week, maybe next month. Eventually, I stopped setting the table. Lena stepped forward, voice trembling. I didn't know you were waiting. You didn't want to know, Evelyn whispered. The rain outside turned fierce, pounding against the windows like 1,000 tiny accusations. Lena finally sat down, burying her face in her hands. I've been such a coward, she whispered. No, Evelyn said, her voice soft but steady. You've been human. Sometimes that's harder to forgive. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom. I know, Evelyn replied. But you did. The honesty in that sentence was unbearable. Simple, heavy, true. Evelyn stood slowly, walking toward the window. Her reflection blurred in the glass, overlaid by streaks of rain. Do you know what it feels like, she said softly, to look in the mirror and not recognize yourself anymore? To realize the person you raised doesn't see you at all. Lena's eyes filled. I see you now. Then don't look away this time, Evelyn said, voice trembling. Even when it's uncomfortable. A sudden crack of thunder shook the house. Evelyn flinched. Her bad wrist jolted, knocking over the teacup. It shattered on the floor, scattering porcelain and tea across the tile. Instinctively, Lena jumped up. Don't move, Mom. I said I can handle it. Evelyn snapped, her voice sharp with years of swallowed pain. They froze. The words echoed through the small kitchen. For a long moment neither spoke. The rain roared outside, the clock ticking too loudly. Evelyn's eyes were bright, not with anger but heartbreak. You can't protect me from growing old, she whispered. But you could at least let me live while I still can. She walked out of the room, leaving Lena standing amidst the shattered porcelain. That night Lena couldn't sleep. She sat on the couch in the dim light, the sound of rain still beating against the roof. Her eyes burned from tears she wouldn't let fall. She looked toward the hallway where her mother slept. A single thought echoed through her head. I came to take care of her, but maybe she's been taking care of me all along. But it was too late to say it. At least tonight. Have you ever said something you couldn't take back? Or realized too late what someone really needed from you? What did it teach you about love and pride? Share your thoughts in the comments. Lena woke to that silence. She sat up on the couch, her heart heavy. Evelyn's door was closed. For a moment, she wondered if her mother had left. Gone to the store, perhaps, or to Mrs. Patel's. but something inside told her she hadn't gone anywhere. Not really. On the table lay the broken teacup she'd swept up last night, its pieces neatly wrapped in a paper towel. Beside it was a note, written in Evelyn's delicate handwriting. Went for a walk to clear my head. Don't worry. The handwriting was steady but sad. Lena read the note twice, then 3 times. Her stomach twisted. It wasn't the walk that worried her. It was the space, the emotional distance those few words carried. She stood by the window, staring out at the drizzle-soft world beyond. The sidewalk was wet, the trees dripping from last night's rain. Somewhere in that small neighborhood, her mother was walking alone, carrying pain Lena had put there. For the first time in her adult life, Lena didn't know what to do. Every instinct told her to give her mother space, to let the moment cool, but something deeper whispered otherwise. She thought of the letter. The way Evelyn had said, "You can't protect me from growing old, but you could at least let me live while I still can." And Lena realized, love wasn't about fixing or proving or managing. It was about showing up, even when you were terrified you might not be forgiven. She grabbed her coat and stepped outside. The air was crisp, filled with the smell of wet leaves. A breeze brushed against her cheeks as she walked down the familiar street, past hedges and mailboxes she'd once run past as a child. She spotted her mother sitting on the park bench near the pond, the same place they used to feed ducks when Lena was little. Evelyn's sling rested gently in her lap. She looked smaller somehow, framed by the wide gray sky. Lena hesitated, then slowly approached. The sound of her footsteps on the wet pavement made Evelyn glance up. Their eyes met. For a long, painful second neither spoke. Finally Lena sat beside her. The pond rippled softly, the air thick with the scent of rain and earth. "You found me," Evelyn said quietly. "I never stopped looking," Lena replied. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Evelyn's mouth. "You used to say that when you were 5. You'd hide behind the sofa and shout, 'Find me!' And when I did you'd say, 'I was here all along.'" Lena smiled through the ache in her throat. "Guess I've been hiding longer than I thought." "Maybe," Evelyn said softly. "But you came out this time." They sat in silence, watching 2 ducks glide across the pond. The water mirrored the pale morning light, smooth and endless. After a moment Lena spoke, voice trembling. "Mom, about yesterday." "You don't have to." "I do," Lena interrupted. "You were right. I haven't really seen you in years. I've been so busy trying to build a life that I forgot the person who built me." Evelyn turned to her, eyes gentle but tired. "You don't owe me guilt, Lena." "It's not guilt," Lena said. "It's love that forgot how to speak." Evelyn blinked, the words settling softly into her chest. "You always had a way with words," Evelyn murmured. "Maybe I got it from you." Lena reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, the broken handle from the teacup. She'd saved it from the night before. "I thought we could fix it together," she said quietly. Evelyn looked at it, then back at her daughter. Her eyes filled. "It won't ever be perfect again." "I don't want perfect," Lena whispered. "I just want us." The simple honesty of that sentence broke whatever walls were left. Evelyn's shoulders trembled as she reached for her daughter's hand. For the first time in years, Lena didn't hold back. She pulled her mother into a full, unguarded embrace. No pride, no guilt, just 2 hearts remembering what love had always been meant to feel like. They stayed like that for a long time, until the clouds thinned and sunlight spilled over them both. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn laughed softly through her tears. "You're going to make a mess of my sling," she said. "Then I'll fix that too," Lena replied, smiling. On the walk home they didn't speak much. But every step felt lighter. The distance between them wasn't gone, but it was walkable now. At one point, Lena slipped her arm around her mother's shoulder, guiding her gently up the path. Evelyn didn't protest this time. When they reached the porch, Evelyn looked at her daughter and said, "You've grown up, you know." "Took me long enough," Lena said. Evelyn smiled. "Some people take a lifetime to come home." I'm glad you found the way sooner. That night, Lena sat by her mother's side as they watched an old movie together. It was one of those black and white classics Evelyn adored, the kind where the heroine finds love not in grand gestures, but in quiet courage. As the credits rolled, Evelyn whispered, "Maybe I'll still take that writing class after all." "You'd better," Lena said. "You've got a lot to say. Maybe I'll write about us." "Then make sure it has a happy ending," Lena replied. "Oh, it will," Evelyn said, smiling softly. "It already does." 3 months later, the house felt alive again. The scent of vanilla and cinnamon floated through the air. Balloons swayed gently from the ceiling. A banner, hand-painted and slightly crooked, read, "Happy 68th, Mom." Lena stood in the kitchen, frosting a cake with meticulous focus. She'd even used her mother's old recipe card, the one with the faded handwriting and the butter stains along the edges. "Too thick?" Lena asked, glancing over her shoulder. "Perfect," Evelyn said from the table, smiling. "Just the way I used to mess it up." "You mean improve it?" Lena teased. "Of course," Evelyn said with mock dignity. "We'll call it a family tradition." They laughed together, not the hesitant laughter of strangers trying to reconnect, but the deep, warm laughter of two people who had found their way back to each other. Evelyn's wrist had healed, though she still moved it gently. The sling was gone, replaced by a silver bracelet, a gift from Lena engraved with 3 words. "Still here always." "You didn't have to," Evelyn said when she first received it. "I wanted to," Lena replied. "It's for every time I forgot to see you." Evelyn hadn't taken it off since. As guests began to arrive, a few neighbors, Mrs. Patel, and 2 of Evelyn's former students who now brought their own children, the house buzzed with warmth. Someone handed Evelyn a small bouquet of daisies. She smiled, eyes bright. Lena hovered nearby, making sure everything went smoothly. But when the music started and chatter filled the room, Evelyn noticed something. Her daughter was doing the same thing she used to do at every gathering, staying busy so she wouldn't have to feel. "Lena," she called softly. Sit down for a minute. I'm just checking the." "Sit," Evelyn said again, with the kind of loving firmness only mothers possess. Lena obeyed, sitting beside her. Evelyn reached over and placed a hand on her daughter's. "You don't have to prove anything anymore," she said. "You already came home." Lena looked down, her eyes misting. "I didn't realize how much I missed this." "What, chaos and frosting in your hair?" Evelyn teased. "No," Lena laughed. "You." Later, as the candles were lit, Evelyn looked around the room. Faces glowed in the candlelight. Familiar, loving, alive. But the only face she truly saw was her daughter's, smiling back through tears. Everyone began to sing. "Happy birthday to you." Evelyn closed her eyes, feeling every note like a heartbeat. When it came time to blow out the candles, Lena whispered, "Make a wish." "I already have," Evelyn said softly. And she blew out the candles. After the guests had left and the house had quieted, Lena and Evelyn sat on the porch with 2 slices of leftover cake. The sky above was scattered with stars. "You know," Lena said, "you never told me what you wrote for that class you took." "Oh, I haven't finished it yet," Evelyn replied, smiling. "But it's coming along." "What's it about?" "A mother and daughter who forget how to talk, until life makes them listen." Lena smiled, blinking back emotion. "Does it end well?" "Of course," Evelyn said. "They learn that love doesn't fade. It just waits." They sat in silence, their hands brushing lightly, a small touch that carried years of unspoken forgiveness. A soft breeze rustled through the trees. Evelyn turned her face toward the sky, eyes shimmering with gratitude. "You know," she said, "the best gift isn't the cake or the bracelet or the party." "Then what is it?" Lena asked. "Ooh. Sitting here beside me." Lena swallowed hard, her throat tight. "Then I guess I finally got you something you actually wanted," she said, half laughing, half crying. Evelyn chuckled softly. "It only took you 30 years. Hey, better late than never." They both laughed, the kind of laugh that heals everything it touches. The porch light flickered gently, casting their shadows long across the wooden floorboards. Inside, the half-eaten cake sat on the table, imperfect, messy, and perfect all at once. Before heading inside, Lena whispered, "Happy birthday, Mom." "Thank you, sweetheart," Evelyn replied. "For everything, even the hard parts. They brought us here." Lena leaned over and kissed her mother's forehead. "Then here's where I'm staying." Evelyn smiled, eyes glistening. "Welcome home, my girl. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this video, and I'm confident you enjoyed it. We've got plenty more exciting and heartwarming stories waiting for you. Just click on the image on your screen to watch the next one.